Hey guys, just going to show you a quick and easy way to prepare a original Xbox system for the Xbox HD Plus by Make Megahertz. And at the same time, because they come with tiny little hard drives, I'm going to show you how to upgrade them. So I've got a bunch of 2TB hard drives here. I think you can go a little bigger than that, but I've got 2TB ones on hand, so that's what I'm going to use. That should be plenty of room. Just show you this mod chip here, which I've transplanted out of another system. Now usually the wire here to the BT runs across to the eject button because the mod chip comes with a feature to disable the mod chip by starting the Xbox with the eject button as opposed to the power button. But I'm running the BT to a 3.3 volt on the mod chip. If you can see in there on the back row, it's the third header down, and I've just got that link to BT, so the mod chip's always enabled. Now these mod chips come with Xecuter 2 BIOS on one of the banks, which is the bank facing us, and they come with the M8 Plus for version 1.6 Xboxes on the bank facing that way. Now the good thing about this chip is I did brick this multiple times last night, but even though that M8 BIOS on the bank that way is for version 1.6 Xboxes, it still will allow you to get into your boot disks here. So I'll just show you the boot disks we're using. So that's True Hexen 2020. Xbox Engineering Tools. I'll also be using OG Xbox Rocky 5 Extras Disc, simply because True Hexen by default will install the Evolution X dashboard / operating system. I don't use that. I think Xbox Media Center is the best and only dashboard you'll ever need. And you can use True Hexen to install the Xbox Media Center dash, but it doesn't make that your default dash that the Xbox launches off. It adds it as an application that you can then launch through the Evolution X dashboard. I'd rather the Xbox just start straight up into Xbox Media Center without having to muck around with the file manager and set that up yourself. This will do that for you. It's automatic. This is Eurasia Pro Generic Flash Disk. That site's been down for ages, but they were a very popular modding site back in the day. I think that's version 1.3, and then I'll run you through this later on how to prepare it. Oops. This is the modified M8 Plus BIOS for the Xbox HD Plus. It's got the patched kernel on it, which you'll need. That's the latest version. If we ever want to upgrade because Make Megahertz releases a new patch, we just simply burn a new disk. It's just a data disk with some files on it. You launch the Eurasia Pro Generic Flash Disk, and then you switch it to this, and that'll flash your BIOS. Keep in mind that's going to flash the BIOS to whichever bank you've got selected. So flick that back down to our M8 Plus BIOS for version 1 to 1.5. This is a V1.4 system. You can tell if the system's a 1 to 1.5 by the video chip in it. This one's got the focus just back there. And the other tool we are using is a flash drive. It was quite fussy on which flash drive it would allow me to use. This one works, so you might have to try a few. And this is a controller port to USB adapter so that the Xbox can read that flash drive. So I've started this video again because, as mentioned, I haven't touched an OG Xbox since 2008, and back then I just used to soft mod them with an IDE computer by laying it on its side, doing a hot swap trick, and using a disk on your computer full of Xbox tools to soft mod that for you. Things are different now, and it's always better to have a chip. So these hard drives are married to the main boards. So the hard drive the Xbox comes with, it's only going to work on the Xbox it came with. But with a mod chip, we can actually null the EEPROM, and then we can use a nulled hard drive on any other Xbox that's got a nulled EEPROM. You can just swap them, and they become interchangeable. You can keep it locked or you can unlock it. It doesn't matter, because the mod chip, having the mod chip is what allows us to have that freedom. So yeah, I've just found a shortcut. Last night I used Chimp and I did a whole bunch of hot swapping and powering the new hard drive off another supply and cloning from the original hard drive across to the new one, which took about an hour. But none of that's needed. So if you've already upgraded your Xbox hard drive and you want to keep all the data on it and you want to upgrade again to an even bigger hard drive, you'll have to use another tutorial which covers Chimp. It was quite frustrating because after you do all the hot swapping and everything set up, it says press A on the controller. Nothing happens. You have to wait about 5 minutes and then you can go through all your settings and you start your clone. As mentioned, use a different tutorial if you need to clone your hard drive. Here we're just going to start from scratch. So I've got the BIOS set to the M8 Plus bank for 1 to 1.5 for this 1.4 system. Here's a hard drive I cloned last night using Chimp, which I found out was a waste of time. And here's one I just set up fresh before when I found out there was a shortcut. So we're going to do this the quick and easy way. Just if you are using Chimp and you've got this adapter and you're doing the clone, you do need to set this jumper here to slave. It won't let you use the chip select, cable select, sorry. So it definitely won't work. Make sure you jump those pins if you're going to clone. We're not cloning, so let's go. This is an 80 pin IDE cable. Apparently you get 25% faster loading times. I'm not ashamed to stop at curbside pickups when people throw their junk out and collect all their discarded electronics, so I found this in the shed from a curbside pickup. So plug that in. This is a completely virgin drive. That's it. We'll just start the Xbox up with the True Hexen 2020 Xbox engineering disc, and straight away this disc is going to see that you've got a new hard drive. Pull both triggers, press start. Off it goes. Do you have drive F? I'm going to say yes. It has finished preparing the new drive. That's simple. Nothing ever goes smoothly when you're trying to make a video. Alright, let's just reboot it and see what happens. So the OG Xbox modding scene is massive and it has been for years, so it can be quite overwhelming when you get these discs with all the tools and different software that they come with and all the different things you can do. So bear in mind there's probably a million ways to do this and I'm just showing you one. Almost gave up then. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that that hard drive is completely partitioned out properly and we have access to the full 2 terabytes there. Xbox Partitioner 1.3, just there in admin. And there we go, so it's definitely done its job. You can see there that there's no free space. We can shrink the partition, but I mean, if you wanted to, you could just do lots of small partitions, but we're just going to leave that there, that 1,735 megabytes. But that's good. I'll just show you quickly how to null the EEPROM. As mentioned, yeah, the hard drives are married to the main board, but we can just null that key. I've taken some extra measures and formatted this as FATX, then used Fat Explorer on the PC to copy a backed up EEPROM from the Xbox onto the USB, and I've just transferred that across to my PC for safekeeping. Must be careful here. safe. In any other nulled Xbox with a nulled EEPROM, you can just switch the hard drives, makes them interchangeable. It just saves dramas. The only reason you'd ever need your backed up EEPROM is if you wanted to relock the hard drive, marry it up to the main board, and remove the mod chip. But we're gonna be leaving this chipped because we're putting an HDMI mod in it, and I don't see why you'd ever want to remove the mod chip. So to null it, it was in Applications, and then EEPROM nulling tool, which wants to install on the E drive. Do not use with soft modded systems, that's fine, we have a chip. For obvious reasons, you wouldn't want to null it if it was soft modded, because you don't have the mod chip there allowing it to read the hard drive regardless of if it's locked, unlocked or nulled. So that's the tool installed. You can come down to Xbox Admin, File Explorer, it's installed it on E, Apps, EEPROM Nuller, launch default.xbe, which is an Xbox executable. And that's it. This might lock up because I've already nulled it, and I'm just telling it to null it again. But I was just showing you how to navigate there to do that. Okay, so next step is, yeah, this automatically installs the Evolution X dashboard. I don't use that. I use Xbox Media Center. I think that's hands down the best dashboard and the only dashboard you'll ever need. So it is on this disk, but it will install it as an application that you can then launch through Evolution X. I'd rather just have it as a default dashboard that just launches when you turn the Xbox on. So I'm using the Rocky 5 Extras Disc to do that. And it just saves you having to do it manually through File Manager, moving files around and whatnot. You can just launch this and tell it to install Xbox Media Center, and it will just it'll do that. It'll also give you the option to remove the old dashboard from that location. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so we're just going to come down to dashboards, and then we're going to choose Xbox Media Center for Xbox, XBMC, numerical 4, Xbox. Install, and we'll install that to C:/dashboard/. There's currently a dashboard residing there. Yeah, that'll be EvoX. I don't want that, so we're going to overwrite that. Let's tap A, and it's on its way. So it's one thing to be able to know how to use these tools, but like, kudos to the people who write them. It's really good. It's a really good scene. There's just so many handy tools there, and the tools are really good quality. There's not like a billion different versions of things, with some things broken on some versions, like PS2. PS2 is a bit of a headache to get your head around at first. Back with the whole soft modding thing, without a mod chip, the bad thing about soft modding is if your hard drive fails and you've thrown out your original hard drive and you haven't backed up your EEPROM, you know, good luck getting a hard drive remarried to that motherboard and having that Xbox function again. Would you like to, sorry about the flickering, it's just what happens when you try and record a CRT, the frame rates mismatching and whatnot. Would you like to remove the dashboard located at E/dashboard? There shouldn't be a dashboard located there, I don't think. We're going to say yes. Pretty sure EvoX was on C. And that's it, so pop that disk out.
over.
Oh, do you want to watch something else? We'll put something on in a minute. And now we should be ready to roll with Xbox Media Center. There we go, Xbox Media Center for Xbox. But yeah, I sort of trialed all the different operating or dashboards back in 2008, 2009, and I just don't see the use for any of them. I think Evo X comes with some flashing tools, but I'm using the Eurasia boot disk. So honestly, in my opinion, I know it's been over 10 years, maybe things have changed, but Xbox Media Center is all you're ever going to need. For some reason they started off with this skin here, which I just don't think is any good, so we're just going to go into the settings and change that to Project Mayhem. The memories. Yeah, that's it. So our Xbox is no longer got a stock dashboard. We switch it on and we'll be introduced with Xbox Media Center, which is what we want. So our next step is, and I know it says on the GitHub for Make Megahertz HDMI mod, that step 1 is to install the QSB, but we're going to make step 1 getting the BIOS on this thing ready. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the preparation of the BIOS to flash onto the mod chip. We've got Luna IPS here. I'm sure you can manage downloading that yourself. We've got the EV tool here. Self-explanatory, and the Evolution X M8 Plus BIOS, which isn't distributed on the GitHub for the Make Megahertz HD Plus. I'll link you to it. And here's our M8 Plus K patcher. From here, so if you click that, it'll download. I've just placed that here. I'm just going to extract these. We don't want that one because we're not working on a 1.6 Xbox, it's a 1.4. So go into EV tool, run that. I'll just show you quickly too. That I have verified the MD5 checksum for this file. Where are we? M8 must be in MD5. And there's the hash there, which matches up with this, so we know that that's a verified BIOS. We'll just go back to our EV tool. I'm going to go unpack M8 Plus bin. That's going to add the kernel file there. Then you can just double click that IPS file there rather than running the Luna IPS and then doing it, which I've just done. We wanted to show all files. This is the kernel, which we're going to patch. That's not going to show up until you do the previous step in EV tool of unpack. That's done, it's patched. And now we're going to go pack. We're going to choose the patched kernel. Then we're going to choose our M8 Plus bin. And then this is just the output name, so I'll just call it patch BIOS. We have to rename that later anyway. So that's done. Yeah, as mentioned, I don't know why it's not showing me all the other info for the files here, but we'll sort that out later. So there's our patch BIOS. As we can see, it's a 256 kilobyte. So I mentioned bricking the BIOS, and that's because it's a dual 512 KB BIOS. It's a 1 megabyte BIOS split into two, I would assume. If you flash a 256 kilobyte BIOS to it, you'll brick it. You need to do an additional step here for this mod chip, which is basically just to resize it. So we're going to go 512. We're going to click size. We're going to choose the patched BIOS, and then we just name our output file patched BIOS 512 KB. That'll do. And there we have it. That's our patched BIOS ready to go. Okay, so I've just transferred from my desktop to my lappy with Ubuntu. I really only use the desktop when I need Windows, so that's why everything looks a little bit different at the moment on the screen. So there's going to be links to all of this in the description, and here's that file. As I said, we're going to have to rename it. So there's the 512 kilobyte kernel patched Xbox HD Plus BIOS, which I've renamed to all lowercase BIOS.bin. Now inside this text file here, you don't have to edit that, but I've just put in 512 kilobyte Evo X M8 Plus BIOS patched for Xbox HD Plus. That's just going to show on the screen for 30 seconds before the flashing happens. So yeah, there will be links to all the tools and stuff in the description, so don't worry about that. Here is our flash disk, and there's the ISO there. So I've been using Brasero. It's quite good. It's free, like IMGBURN, but you can obviously use whatever burning software you prefer. So for the Eurasia Pro generic flash disk, that's an image file. So we're going to select an image file, and we're going to locate it, and then we're just going to click burn. But for the BIOS disk, we're going to do that as a data disk. So data project, and then from here we can just drag that across. Whoops. And then we
Okay, so one thing I didn't mention is when you burn that data disk with the BIOS, make sure you close the session. The Xbox won't recognize a data disk with an open session. When you leave it open, you can add files to it later. You need to close it. So we'll just whack the Eurasia Pro generic flash disk in. It's going to come up with all the chip types it supports. We're going to be a 1 megabyte Fujitsu. One of these ones is on the board, but that should cover pretty much any mod chip, I'd say. Obviously, if you got the Open Xenium and you're using the GitHub tutorial for the HDMI kit, you know, by all means just follow that. It's probably a good tutorial, but I don't have an Open Xenium. So we're just waiting for the drive to pop open. Here it is. Then this has our 512 kilobyte modified BIOS on it. Do not press the eject button. This thing's all sort of automated. We just got to wait for it. So this will come up with that text where I was showing you that text file, which you can just leave that alone if you like. Should come up shortly. There it is, 512 kilobyte Evo X M8 Plus BIOS, patched for Xbox HD Plus. So yeah, that's just gonna print on the screen whatever you put in that text file. The BIOS bin file has been found on the disk. Detected the Fujitsu, so it looks like we've got an MBM29F080A 1 megabyte flash, and it's flashing the bank that you've got selected on the chip here. And that's it. Please remove the disk when the tray ejects. I really need to clean this table up. She's a friggin' mess. Scored this controller from Cashies for 12 bucks, and the woman who served me gave me a discount. They had OG Xbox controllers for 50 bucks, and then they had this Logitech one, which in my opinion's a nicer controller, for $12. You can still get bargains out there. Alright, so it'll automatically close in 30 seconds and the Xbox will power down. You could probably just turn it on and off yourself, but I'm just going to wait it out. Now, we'll switch this back on. It'll go back into Xbox Media Center and we can just verify that kernel. Now, if you use the Hexen Tools boot disk to run Xbox Media Center or use the file manager on it to run the Xbox HD software, it's not going to detect the kernel. You need to fully boot into a dashboard from your hard drive. Now, I'm not babying you through this. I'm sure you can manage to put the Xbox HD folder from the GitHub onto a USB. It's here somewhere. Let's have a look. Latest Xbox HD Plus app release. There it is there. So I've just uncompressed that, decompressed that. I've stuck it on this flash drive here. Just plug this in. Use port 3 and 4. I think they're on separate little hubs there. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Plug that in. And trying to record this and do things at the same time. Push. Memory unit mounted in port 2 slot 0. Now I do have this formatted as FATX. You don't need to do that because we're only reading from it. The reason I've got it formatted as FATX, as you can see, memory unit 1 FATX, is because I wanted to back up the EEPROM onto it with the tools on either the Rocky 5 disc or the Hexen 2020 disc. So I go into there. There's my backed up EEPROM. There's the Xbox HD. That BIOS, we're not going to use that. That'll be one of the ones I bricked it with anyway. I'll just get rid of it. So the instructions want us to put the Xbox HD folder onto the C drive. That's our C drive. Should be this button here. No, it's this one, the white one. It'll bring up your menu. Just go down to copy. Yes. And that will transfer it straight across to our Xbox C drive where the tutorial wants us to put it. I'm not going to bother with the BIOS folder. As mentioned, that'll be the one I bricked it with because it was 256 kilobytes. And we're using an alternate method here anyway, so we've already got that BIOS on a disk. So no need to copy it to the hard drive. Then run the Xbox HD software. Default XBE off the C drive. And that's it. Kernel patch loader detected, so we're ready to install the kit, guys. Alright, on to the fun part. So I haven't put the QSB on yet, which is meant to be step 1. I'm just going to get these heat sinks off. I've never done this before. We need to pull this one off so that we can get the ribbon cable on here, because there's not much room there. And while we're at it, we'll pull this one off as well so that we can replace the thermal paste. I've got some GD900 here. It's cheap, but it's decent. Heatsink paste, I'm not going to go spending 40 bucks for a little tube I'll never use. Just, how's this one come off? I reckon just put this in here, maybe. No, that one definitely comes up like that. I reckon here. There we go. Be careful here, I don't want to break it. Done. That one looks like it'll come off. All good. That's more like a thermal pad that they've put there. Now this one looks like it's stuck down, so I've just got a heat gun here. It's not temperature controlled or anything, so I'm gonna be careful. Gonna heat this thing up. That should do it. Yeah, easy peasy. Ooh, she's hot. Get that off the table. That's it. Next we'll do either the QSB or we'll remove this AV port. Okay, so we're just going to remove this AV port now. I've got some jelly flux here that's homemade. It's petroleum jelly mixed with this really thick gluggy rosin flux, liquid rosin flux. It works well. That's just in case we need to use the desoldering braid on it. Sometimes some of the pins are a little bit tough. Just put a bit of flux over here. This is a cheap desoldering gun. Hopefully it does the job. Sometimes I need to use a combination of hot air along with this. I'm not willing to fork out like 700 bucks for a good one. Alright, I'm sort of at 90% here. That heat gun's cleared most of the holes, so I'm just going to encourage it off with this heat gun. Sort of going cowboy here. This isn't temperature controlled, so I need to be really careful. Especially because there's those other components there. And yeah, I'm melting it, but I don't plan on reusing it. That's it, one leg to go. I might just cut that. That's it. So invest in a decent desoldering gun. Don't do that at home. That's cowboy style, but I'm pretty experienced at cowboy style. There's one pin left stuck here, so I'm just gonna heat it with the iron and pull it out. There it goes, and we'll just tidy that up quickly with some desoldering braid. Dip it in our flux. No damage done. And the other side. That should do it. AV port removed. Okay, so we're just going to run these links. You can see that pin 1 there is a square shape, which means the board orientation is this way with the square on the top right. We'll count 3 in. I've just got some off cuts here. They're either off resistors or capacitors. I've fluxed the area. So what am I doing? Counting 3 in. 1, 2, 3. I won't need the tweezers. Oops. Let's try again. Start from scratch. It'd be so much easier this way. And then the next one to the left, which will be to the right when it's facing this way. That's it, we'll just clean up the area. So we're working on a revision 1 to 1.5. This is a V1.4. So I've opened up the
Xbox HD Plus GitHub for the Qsb installation. The first thing it's telling us to do is remove that ferrite bead FB3B1 just next to that cat next to the encoder. That's a Connexent video encoder picture. I've got the focus, but that should be that one there. She's on there pretty solid, so I'm going to add some flux and solder. It says to put that aside. It's a friggin' ferrite bead. I'm not going to go rummaging through the sponge to get that out. Good riddance to it. So that's removed now. And then the QSB solders onto the bottom side of the Xbox motherboard. So let's find where that is. This is driving me crazy. Like, I've transplanted this mod chip and just put some new headers in there out of another board, but nothing supports that side. It just goes up and down. Anyway, where are we? Underside of the board here, and it's pointing at that component there. Let's open our kit. Ooh, a lolly. It's a pineapple lolly. Maybe it's got COVID in it. Let's eat it. Let's eat the lolly. Thanks guys. After waiting a year to get this kit, that lolly made it all worth it. Okay, so we'll just find the QSB. Ooh, what's in here? Oh, that's the flex. It's a QSB in here, yep, sweet. Where's that going? CM48 there. Next one in. That's going there, isn't it? Is that insulated? Oh, yeah, it's got nothing on there. Doesn't say anything about having it insulated. No, it doesn't. It's like start by soldering each connection. Blah blah tweezers blah. And additionally, version 1 and 1.1 require this point to be bridged, so I won't have to do that. So yeah, it goes here. Oops, breathe a bit of that in. What other points are there? That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Right. So that's the QSB in. Okay, so I'm just going to verify the QSB installation. It shows here that if we measure between the orange point and ground, we should get less than or equal to 200 ohm. So that's definitely going to be a ground there. And then where am I going? The orange dot here. Hang on. 123, so that's good. And less than or equal to 200 ohm between the red and the orange point. Yep, same thing. And between video 1B5 on the Xbox and video 1B5 on the Qsb. I haven't installed the Qsb yet, so that's all good. Okay, so we're up to the Flex install, so I'm just going to use that picture as my guide. So that's it's good. That's on a focus, which I've got as well, facing this way. Qsb should be in here. Join the Discord. Oh, I talk too much shit when I get on Discords. Anyway. You can find me on the PSX Dev Discord. There's really good blokes on there, but that's the only one I'm really on, because I'm always tinkering with PS1s. Probably my favourite console, actually. Even though I grew up with a 64. Yeah, chuck that in. Should go, yeah, like that. There. Oh shit, that's alcohol. I'm just going to clean the tip of my iron and see if I can get this to just stick here without, that'd be good. Yep. Why not here? That should be enough to at least keep it in place. Just add a tiny bit here. There. That side's pretty well stuck there. Alright, I made a bit of a mess there, so I've just come back in, dipped my desoldering braid in some jelly and just cleared off the excess solder. So I've just got it back under the scope now for a quick check. What's that? Bit of rubbish there.
pretty good. I might add a little bit more. Just a little. I'm just using this to hold the ribbon cable down while I solder it. Probably not necessary, but it's all good. One little bridge there to take care of. More flux. More flux fixes everything. I should just be able to drag that to the right and just distribute it. There we go. Flick downwards. Come on. Is that it? Pretty happy with that. Let's see if I can clean it up so you can. Just make sure there's no bridge on the pins there under this bit. It looks a bit iffy under there. Hang on. I'm going to do this here. Just in there. Yeah, I think that's a bridge. Got it. Ta-da! So, what's the next bit? Bolts down, just one above the leg that leads to a wire with the solder mask over it. No, C one space, it's down one more. There we go. That's where it goes, and I'll just put the whole little tiny holes in the flex cable. I want them over the solder pads. Sweet. I've lost it again. Well, this is a freaking pain in the ass, isn't it? There. Two more. It's too much solder. There you go, I'm pretty happy with that. Then the bottom row, which is just starting on the second pin in from the right. It's pretty much lined up already. Just tidy this up quickly, the phone's overheating. I'll scrub it up and zoom in on it. Alright, just a quick rough cover in alcohol and get right in that. She's good. I've just had a look at this and zoomed right in on the phone. I'm not quite happy with that point there. So I'm just going to quickly re-glue that. I'll apply some pressure to it while I'm soldering it. Hopefully this does the job. It's probably good, but I think it could be better. There we go. Yeah. Sweet. Thing that was not mentioned is the clock cap here has been removed. They all leak on 1 to 1.5 revisions. They all go bad. Luckily on this one it hadn't started leaking. I said I hadn't touched an Xbox since 2008. I did actually open a couple and just remove the clock caps before I put them in storage. And they had leaked. This one was good, so you're going to want to take out that capacitor there. Alright, so next we're going to be running 5V SPDIF and ground. As for this 1.8 volt connection, I don't know what that's for. Maybe he hasn't updated the installation diagrams because I can't see a 1V8 point on this board. This ground 5V SPDIF, SDA and SCL, which are the next diagram. So I'm just going to skip it for now and we'll start running the points. He's given us in the kit this little bag with the pre-cut wires, so I'll open that up. I should put that straight in the bin instead of continually destroying the table. Or maybe this was twice the length. No, that still doesn't explain why there's no point on here. Well, it's disappointing and it's annoying. But yeah, let's skip it. These went missing for ages. I just found them. Let's see if they can strip wire of this gauge. I don't think it can. So put that aside. I'll just use this. This is multi-strand, so you don't need to worry about making a weak point on the wire like you do with the single strand. And that is going to up to the AV. Okay, so pin 1 on the AV out. He's saying they should run flat and to the right, which will be that way. Pin 1. Just tin this. There we go. I'll stuck that in the hole there. I might just solder it from the opposite side. And orange for the SPDIF, so that's your digital audio. Oh, I love this wire. I need to grab some more. It's that nice jelly stuff. tin that. That is going diagonally. We're just going to skip one hole and then go into here. Too much girth on this one. Can't get it in there. See if I can get some of that flux. Sorry, some of that solder off it. No, so I'll just solder it in flat. Actually, let's cut the end off. That's alright, let's just do it flat. Digital audio's done. And ground is using the negative of that capacitor there. If you go to recap it, that's going to be... that's fine. I'll use it. That's the ground. Now SDA and SCL using the paired wire. Port. Where are we? Yeah, this one. Yeah, next to the crystal there. And this is just the very ends. Okay, so I'll have to remember SDA is going to be blue. So on the right, I'll just write that down. And then SDL is green. So right hand side blue. Tweezers. Alright, so we've got that on there.
next to our wonky mod chip. I'm going to stick something in there. I had something in there but the hot glue came out just to hold that in place. You're probably using an open Xenium anyway and you've skipped the first part of the tutorial. Anyway, it's not really a tutorial, it's more like let's watch someone install an Xbox HD Plus kit. What's next? 3D printed HDMI panel inserted between excuse me, the metal shielding and the Xbox case. Grab our dirty, rusty Xbox shielding. This was an unmolested system. It had never been opened. I'm the one that broke these stickers underneath to get it open, and it had a working disk drive, but it's just so friggin' rusty compared to the faulty ones I've got, which usually just have faulty disk drives or eject and power buttons. But I might tidy that up another time and give it a full recap. I've also prepped this and just insulated it so none of the exposed bits there can touch the back of the hard drive and short out. But yeah, it wants us to take this shielding and put this to the side. Alright, so we're gonna switch out this rusty piece of crap. It's just too far gone. So I found I've got another 1.4 Xbox, or I think it's a 1.4. It's where I pulled the mod chip from, and it's got the same video encoder on it, and it's not rusty. It does have a different power supply in it. I'm gonna stick with the one we had because it just looks better quality, Foxlink as opposed to the Delta. I really don't know the difference, they're just different brands, but we'll keep this one. So we've got to pull this, excuse me, metal shielding out to get this stupid little HDMI thingy in there. I'm just going to wedge a piece of a hook in here and just try and pry out this fan. At least I think that's how it comes out. Oh, there. Piece of piss. I'll probably use the original fan because it wasn't a dusty mess like this. I'm not even going to bother with that because it'll just put dust everywhere in the air. Put that aside. Here's the one that came out of that system. Okay, so now I've also removed the controller ports. This shielding should just pop out now. And everywhere I touch is going to eventually rust into my fingerprints, but there's nothing I can do to avoid that other than put on gloves, and I don't feel like putting on gloves. So, yeah. It's coming up, is it? This side's loose. Doesn't seem to be anything holding that side. There's nothing holding it underneath the power supply cover. Oh, that's part of it. It's all built in. That should be enough room, actually. Don't ask me how you completely remove that. It's probably very easy, but I've said a million times, I haven't touched an Xbox since 2008. And when I did, I had no need to do this. Just gotta slide this sucker in there. So you might want to do that properly. No damage done, but yeah, on to the next step. I'm just going to take a preventative measure here and just put a bit of WD-40 around this casing just to help prevent rust. This should be safe on electronics as well. Clean it off later. And this is a different brush to what I use for cleaning, but not that it matters. Just spread that around a bit. will hopefully help inhibit any rust, prevent future rust from forming. It's going to leave a beautiful WD-40 smell in the Xbox. Okay, so got our motherboard here. Just lay that back down. We've got our supply. The power supply is only held in by 2 screws. That's back in place. Just going to have to clean this hold the gunk off the heatsink. Sorry, off the GPU before we put the heatsink back on. It's quite stubborn. Let's see if the WD-40 helps. Oh, so actually, as long as it's clean. That's what WD-40 is. Not going to get crazy and get every single bit off around the edges. Just the new heatsink base will overflow over the side as well. I'm going to get the whole type of
Final clean down soon and dry it with the hairdryer, because it gets in underneath all the ICs. Like that one there, there's a space underneath. When you pour alcohol on, it'll get under that chip. So I think it's just safer to blow dry the whole board after a clean. Just make sure you've got it out from everywhere. Okay, what's our next step with the HDMI mod? Install the spacer as shown in black. Here's our board. And that's obviously faces that way. Oh, I see. Okay, so what have we got? The flex cable and the wires that was already run. Run that one after, so I don't want to bury those connections. So I really went through into these joints. I'm going to touch each one more time. Oops. Not bad, and then this next blue. Plenty of flux there, ready? Also, if you're going to be using an 80-pin IDE cable, that's how you fold it. There's guides on the internet because they're a different orientation. Yeah, this one's ready for just that ribbon cable, and final cleanup, fresh heatsink paste, reassembly, dry the board down, we'll test it out. Alright, I'm going to give this a nice clean. Let all the alcohol run off outside, dry it down. I'll be back with you for the heatsink paste. Alright, so I've just cleaned it down with alcohol. The areas of interest with the blow dryer with this chip, and this chip, because they're held down by balls underneath. They don't have legs. So, but yeah, I know that underneath all of them's dry, so I've just got the heatsink here. Just gonna give these a quick clean. A bit of separation there, so I'm just gonna squeeze some out until we've just got the paste and not the water. How much heatsink paste to use is extremely debatable. I'm just gonna go with this much. I might even spread it a bit. Goes the other way. Oh, there we go. And this one. And then clamp. Done. So final reassembly, which is not going to be on camera. I'll get that done and we'll test it out. So it's pretty much reassembled. You can see the kit down there. It's got some lights on it. Just got it hooked up in here so that I can get audio as well. It wasn't coming through my computer monitor for some reason. It definitely does on the display port, which is weird. So just got a legit copy of Doom 3 here. Throw that on. There's Xbox Media Center. The eject button on this, because we switched cases, is a little bit sticky. It works, but I haven't gone into the Xbox HD app and played with the settings either. I've just switched it on and booting a game.